I'm going to move on to the next question, which is that with these foundational frameworks in place that you have done with the rest of the central bankers, and the key digital infrastructure connects, what then is the digital multiplier to supercharge the innovation and financial services rapidly? Are these solutions in play or yet to be created? Where do you see us 5 years from now?
It's already a tough 5-year journey till now. So going to next 5 years will be equally challenging. But in any case, I think we do see some things very clear. I think from our perspective, we'll have 3 distinct forward-looking paths. We think all the processes which exist today in the financial sector will shift to the world of tokenization. I think largely they'll move there because it is the way forward. The underlying infrastructure which is powering this process, this new construct, will shift in terms of the hardwares when required. We'll also see a major upgrade. I'm not going to use the fancy word quantum now, but some point in time this will be something we have to deal with because we got to figure out an efficient way to process this new technology. I was reading yesterday, if you search something on Google and you search something on ChatGPT burns energy 10 times than searching the same thing on a Google. So what is happening is that we are actually putting very complex hardware behind this complex technology. And if that is the trend, by end of this decade, almost 1/4 of our global energy, in fact, 1/3 of the global energy will be consumed by data centers. While we are talking about the front-end application, we've got to think about the hardware which goes behind it. We need a lot of innovation in that space. So the second focus next 5 years will be rapidly looking at the infrastructure behind this technology. It cannot consume the energy at which it's consuming today. It is just expensive.
Actually, I just have something to contribute here because in the last few conferences, there's a lot of talk about DePIN, Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network. A lot of people think that everything about climate tech, everything about greening is the corporate or the government responsibility. There must be some technology like DePIN to allow individuals to play their own parts besides segregating the rubbish, where they're going to throw, less consumption of, so that you have less carbon emission and so on. But I think perhaps also that regulators and governments should look towards incentives for the DePIN because it is a crossover from just purely software to the real world.
I think it's very important the scientific community have to examine the cost of hardware and the implication of the hardware behind these new technologies, or even the data growth and the data processing centers. When I was in Australia in your conference, Prof, and I met this company, it runs all the latest supercomputers on baby oil, submerged in baby oil. When you submerge this machine inside a baby oil, you can take out the fan, no air conditions. It actually doesn't need any external energy, external power to fire the data center with air conditions. So technology like that, which just so innovative that you can run this complex machine on submerged in baby oil, is a good way to think about in this space of different innovation. The third pillar for us is to think about the whole space around sustainability tech. And when I say sustainability tech, it comes in 3 different structures. One is disclosure. While it sounds so easy, it's a very painful process. You've got to think about disclosures happening at different sectorial level, because if you go to each sector, the data set available for disclosure is not easy. Project Nova looked at disclosure in the real estate space, building the disclosures and the buildings, energy consumptions, water and other thing. And when you go to disclosure for small businesses, very complicated. MAS started a project called Greenprint, which is a platform to allow small businesses to use to disclose their sustainability matrices using both data from third-party sources and also using AI to predict some of the data, so we can do some AI implementation there. The second part is once you have the data disclosed, we've got to think about the transition plan and how the machines, how the software gives transition plan for each of them so that they can move that net zero direction. And third is the marketplace. How do they get to the transition path? What kind of solutions required? EV solutions, all the new industry, as we saw in China, the whole the green industry which is booming, how do they fit in to this market of in sustainability tech or climate tech? And I was reading a recent article called Low Altitude Economy, which is essentially all these technologies. And how do you bring those technologies together and create the next generation sustainable finance, infrastructure, sustainable economy? So to summarize, decentralized economy, sustainable economy, and the third leg will be what you call as embedded economy. We have to move technology, processes, finance into every sector. So that's the direction for 5 years. A lot of fun, but we need a lot of money and blessings.
Yeah. I have one question here, which is, can you share some closing thoughts about the future of borderless innovations, and how can everyone here gain?
Well, I'm a little overexcited because finally, after so many years of hard work, we got some good way forward. If I had to think about how we go forward, I think we need more use cases to come out and be presented to us so that we can look at the use cases and start applying these technology stacks. We need to figure out how to also communicate this thing to general public, because a lot of times the capital allocations are questioned, right? So we need to figure out how to generate capital, private capital, to do public good. And for private capital to come to the public good space, we need to be very careful about how we move forward. So there's a lot of complex, and private capital can be created if the policymakers allows this private capital to be deployed in innovative technology, which will generate exponential return, and that capital can come back to public good. It's quite of a very ambitious thought process by Sam Altman.
Cut in here. I think one of the very important foundation is we got to bring in the academic.
Yes.
The academics, if they understand the use cases, you understand what the bottlenecks are, then the research efforts are actually, applied research efforts are pointing towards the area of disseminating the information to the politicians, especially.
Yes.
Not so much about the regulators and the people at the working level, but the politicians have to buy in as well. And to buy in, they really need to have some very solid grounding, scientific research based on ethical behavior, based on right processes, and having a right group of people from Web 2 who understand Web 3, because they have to speak the right language so that they can reach out to international organizations and understand the entire geopolitics in order for all this private capital to be channeled towards public good, because investment is about returns, as you mentioned. And if the regulation is right, then the private sector money and the regulation will all be giving their funds to the right fund managers to do whatever they need to be done, especially in helping to build this public digital infrastructure that everyone can actually participate.
Absolutely.
So my point is still back that there's one very important, I hope you can put it into your thesis, is that the academic is an important part of this equation, and hopefully they can be involved in a more active way.
Definitely. And just to close your thoughts, I think for me, the academics have to somehow bring three things out of any good ideas. There's a political equity, there's an economic equity, and a social equity. If you can bring these three into a way we can all consume, I think the allocation of private capital will go in the right direction, and hence the right policy will come, hence the ROI will come, and the excess capital can go back to public good. So hopefully your academic community here can help us.
I'm sure everyone will be very keen to do that. We have journal editors here, we have professors of ethics, and many of them who are very good and expert in their own area. So we actually come to the end of our
short
chat. I always find that 35 minutes on paper is very long, but when we start chatting, it's always very short, and we are always asked to end as soon as possible. But I hope all of us today has gained a lot of insights and also the wisdom of Mr. Mohanty. And would like you to put your hands together to thank him for sharing his thoughts and his action with us.
Thank you.